games. It's ScrubGames. Double up. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have the next in my Deck of the Week deck profiles, where I go over the lists I've been enjoying and having fun with for this last week, or last little bit. And since we've already got started with the set 5 ones, we're on the next set 5 one, and this one being Kylo Yellow. So this one is one that I've seen a fair bit online. It's one of the ones that I see to be quite exciting, and I've gone for the yellow build, not the green build. Seeing a lot of the green build, I don't see why that's been played as much, considering that yellow I feel is a little bit better. But we're going to go reason why I feel that and go over a list and everything like that. So if you are interested, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and by clicking that notification bell you can also get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there and then, or later time that suits you best. Now we're going to go over the list, just have a quick peek at the list, and then go over and basically go over the list, the cards, reason why they're there, and go over the general playstyle, and even go over the side deck that I did build as well. So if you want to play this for set 5, you've got a side deck to use with it. So let's get into it. So this is my list, and this is what I've got and been testing out and doing pretty well with. So you'll notice that there aren't many units, but there's a lot of upgrades consider like what Kylo does. But this is the list. We're not going to go over like the list now. We're going to go over each card choice, but this is the list. So if you want to go out and try it yourself, maybe test it on Carabas, maybe take it to locals or anything like that, you got the QR code in the bottom right. You can also use to get the link, and also you've got a link in the description below as well, so you can grab that if you want to try it on Carabas, Prejnaki, whichever one you use. Now we're going to go over the list, basically explain why the card choice is there, what the cards are there for, and even go to side bits or side deck afterwards as well. So if you're interested, stay tuned and let's get into it. So starting off with the leader, this is Kylo Ren, the new Kylo Ren blue one, and it's pretty interesting, it's pretty cool, and acts like a one-man army, which is something I tried to do back, I think even I can't remember if it's set 1 or a while ago with Chirrut, being like, given that its effect is being undefeatable by damage until the end of the turn, and Kylo kind of loads himself up similar to how that deck goes. It's pretty cool. It's very upgrade focused as well, because its effect when in the leader area is an action where you tap him, you discard a card from your hand, and if you discarded an upgrade from that effect, then you get a draw card. So essentially the effect is discard an upgrade, draw a card. It's because you're never really going to want to discard anything that isn't upgrade, because you're never going to replace it with a draw. But this means you can keep loading up discarding upgrades and ditching them to draw cards for your deck. You get your free deck quite quickly, quite well, which is pretty nice. So fitting for your deck to get to the cards you're looking for or cards you want. It's pretty cool. And also you might be thinking, why would you want to keep discarding upgrades? What's the point? Well, it goes in with his when deployed, because he's then got a when deployed effect when he does deploy, because he deploys at 7 resources, which is quite late. Not too late, well, it is pretty late, but it's not a problem considering that it's a very slow strategy what you want to do for Kylo. And it comes down to 5/5 with Sentinel as well, so 5/5 stats on a 7 deploy is not great, but it can get bigger and better. And also he's a Sentinel as well, so you protect your ground arena from your opponent's units that want to go to your base or other units. Now his when deployed, which is relevant to his effect to discard upgrades, is when deployed, play any number of upgrades from your discard pile on this unit. You do however have to pay the cost for each of the upgrades. You pay them for free. Remember when this card was first revealed, I basically didn't read it properly and thought it was for free and thought that was absolutely amazing. That is nutty, that is busted. But no, you do have to pay the actual cost of the card. And there's a reason why, because of this effect, you have to pay the cost of the card while playing yellow, and we'll go over those in a little bit. But this is the leader, so he's a very late deploying leader, 5/5 stats, discards upgrades to draw cards from your deck, and when deployed you can then upgrade from your discard pile onto him with all the upgrades you have in your discard pile, which is cool. And there are some really good upgrades in both yellow and blue as well, so that's why we're going for these aspects. And well, blue we don't really get a choice because he is in blue, but yellow I feel is the better of the choices for upgrades on him. He is also force and first order, so like all his leaders in this set 5, he's a force leader, which is not relevant towards what we want to do for this, and same with First Order, the traits are not relevant at all. But that is all we need to go over the leader, because that's what really matters. So his effect is basically ditch your upgrades to draw for your deck, and then when he deploys, you can throw any number of upgrades on that you can pay the resources for, to load him up with a load of them, making a huge unit. So now we've won over the leader, let's have a look at the rest of the deck. So first off, we're going to go for the upgrades, and these are the 2 upgrades that are the reason why I've gone for yellow. So we have Snapshot Reflexes all the way back from set 1, and also Shadow Intentions from set 3. So these are the upgrades that are the reason I've gone for yellow, and why I feel that yellow is the better version of Kylo, because these are just very powerful ones. And also, you don't want to play the aspect penalty for these amazing cards. You have to keep them in there, and you still got a good enough amount of cards and things in yellow and blue to help make sure Kylo maintains his goal. So Snapshot Reflex is a really nice one because it's a 1-cost upgrade that gives a 1/1 boost to units, so 1 extra power, 1 extra health, so it turns into, with just this, a 6/6. And when played, you can attack with the attached unit. So it means, just like how Hotshot Blaster is really good because it can, from smuggling it, you can upgrade it on the unit and attack straight away, do attack action efficiency, means you can do the action of upgrading it and attacking rather than doing it in 2 actions, you do it in 1. It's really good. And this is the same thing where you can deploy Kylo and then in the same action attack with the unit because you put this on. So this means you, rather than just upgrading and then waiting for an action to attack, you do it in both 2 actions in 1, which makes you very action efficient. This means that you can then deploy Kylo, lob all your upgrades that you can afford to put on him, and attack straight away. So that way you're quicker to take the initiative and then swing again for a huge swing again on the next turn. So that's why we got that one in. We play that at 3 because it's one of the more important upgrades. Now the other one we don't have many copies in, we just got 1 copy. We do have one in the sideboard, is Shadow Intentions. Now this is a 3-cost upgrade. It gives no boost to stats, so no power boost, no health boost, but it gives it a really strong ability, because now the attached unit gains, this unit can't be captured, defeated, or returned to its owner's hand by enemy card abilities. This means if you build up a very big unit, so if you deploy Kylo and give him a load of upgrades and make him very huge in his stats, normally the only way you can take out something with such massive stats is by just instantly taking it out by defeating it with effects like Rival's Fall and things like that. But Shadow Intentions gives it the nice ability where you can no longer be defeated. Like the return to hand and capture don't matter for leaders because you can't capture or return to hand leaders. But defeated is irrelevant because when you get Kylo out with huge stats, with this on him, he can no longer be defeated by card abilities. Means your opponent can use Rival's Fall and it means nothing. They just paid 6 to do nothing because it can't be defeated. And this is relevant because, well, from testing on Carabas, people don't really see that I've put this on the unit when I've tested it, so they hold off knowing that I'm going to deploy Kylo, make him huge swing, and they're going to try and kill him with abilities. But by putting this on as the first upgrade, you normally don't see that on the like a load of upgrades he's got on. So they do use things like Power Dark Side or Rival's Fall to try and take it out. Like someone even before tried the Super Laser Blast to take out my unit, and my unit was still there, so I was able to just claim the initiative after he paid all those resources to do nothing, and then swing for game the next turn. Things like that makes it just, well, against blue decks you can't be defeated, and it's just really handy, so you don't have to worry about those decks. So these are the 2 reasons why I've gone for yellow, and it's just very, very strong. Next we've got these other yellow upgrades as well. We've got on the decks. We've got a copy of Jetpack, a copy of Ascension Cable, and a full playset of Frozen in Carbonite. Now these are more upgrades you can ditch off Kylo to help draw for your deck, and while 2 of them being Jetpack and Ascension Cable, ones you want to ditch off Kylo, Frozen Carbonite is one that's just in there that also helps you survive, so you can get to a number of resources where you can deploy Kylo huge and hit hard to basically just kill your opponent by doing 2 swings with your leader and finishing the game. So Jetpack is a nice one where you can even resource it if you want because it's got smuggle, so that means if you don't want to ditch it off, so you need certain resource and you've got no other good options or option you want to in your hand, then you can always resource this because it's an upgrade you can potentially put on Kylo the turn after you've deployed him, because you're normally going to tap out deploying him by putting as many resources you can from your discard. This one you can put on him after because it gives for 2 a 2 extra power boost to the unit, and then gives the unit, when it's played onto it, a shield token for the turn, but at the end of the turn you defeat that token if it's still there. So it's a way to give him a shield, and even if you play it from using Kylo's when deployed to put on, you then have him out on board with a shield. That means he's potentially, well, unable to be damaged by unable to be damaged by damage once basically. So it gives them a temporary shield, which is pretty handy. And a Sentry Cable is nice for against those decks that want to put down a Sentinel, thinking if they put a Sentinel down, you can go to their base. Because this is a 2-cost, 1 free upgrade, so it gives only 1 power but 3 health, so that's a good amount. You want to boost his Kylo's health up more because you want him to be bulky, so that he's hard to take down by damage. So you can't throw too much into him to take him out so easily. And this gives him Saboteur, meaning he can ignore shields, or defeat shields when he attacks you in a unit with shields on, and also ignore a Sentinel and go straight to your opponent's base. It means if your opponent plays a Sentinel out, then you can ignore that and go straight to their base anyway and not have to worry at all. It's very handy. We got 1 copy of this because not every deck runs a Sentinel, but if they do, you want to have this one to go over it. And then also we got Frozen Carbon, and this is a very handy one. Now it's another one of those upgrades like Shadow Intentions, where it's a free cost that gives no boost to stats at all, but it's more of a defensive one than it is an offensive one to put on Kylo. So this one you don't want to put on Kylo, and you can't really anyway, but it's one to help you hold off the game and survive long enough in the late game to then deploy Kylo and win through that method. So its effect is you attach it to a non-leader unit, so you can't attach it to a leader unit, you have to attach it to a non-leader unit. The attached unit can't ready, and when played on a unit, you exhaust that unit. So essentially means you tap down the unit and keep it so it can never be untapped at all while this is on it. So this is handy when your opponent brings up something annoying that you don't want them to attack with, or something you don't want to use the attack abilities for, or anything like that, or you just don't want them to have access to. And this works better on non-unique units because they can't just play another copy of it to then defeat the one that's Frozen Carbonate is on. So this is better on non-unique units, but if you need to put on unique units, it's always handy just to keep it tapped down, locked down, and this is how you hold off the game. Now it does conflict with Powered Dark Side, which we do have in the deck, but it's still a very good one. It's a nice upgrade where if you have no other choice, you can always discard this for color to draw through your deck as well. Then we have the blue ones, and these are ones that give a bigger stat boost, and just like with the yellow ones there, we have 2 that you want to ditch off of Kylo to build up in your discard so you can attach it all onto Kylo, and you got 1 that helps out by being defensive and helping hold off in the game. So Boss Endurance is a very nice handy one. It's an upgrade of the, I think it's Resilience, the name of the one for set 1. So Boss Endurance is the same as that, where it gives a good amount of health. So I think Resilience was a 1-cost upgrade from set 1 that gave extra free health, and that was it. Just 1-cost upgrade, gave extra free health, that was it. But Boss Endurance is an upgraded version of that for Force units because it's a 1-cost upgrade that gives a 1 power and 3 health. So it gives the same amount of health, but also now 1 power, and it can only attach to a Force unit. So this is a better upgrade than that one for set 1 because it gives an extra power as well. And this is one, and it's so cheap that you can potentially, if you see all 3, touch them on, and your unit's now, Kylo is minimum with all 3 of these on them. It's going from a 5-5 now to a 8-14. So that's a lot of health to make sure he's harder to kill and still good amount of power. Now Kylo Ren's lightsaber we also have in here, and this is for against yellow decks because they sometimes want to tap things down. And with Kylo Ren's lightsaber, it's another one just like a Sentry Cable, a 2-cost, 1 free upgrade. So a 2-cost that gives an extra 1 power and free health, and it gives the ability of if the unit's attached to as a Force unit, it gains the ability that it can't be exhausted by any card abilities. That means if your opponent if you don't see for some reason your snapshot reflexes, then your opponent can't just go ahead and you down with no gonna be dead, because sometimes yellow decks have no gonna be dead and they're locked down with things like leaders and stuff, so they can't do anything for a turn. And this is handy because then your opponent can just tap it down. So against those yellow decks, which might want to tap it down before it can do anything, or claim the initiative after you've dropped, equipped all your upgrades, 1 being at least snapshot and attacking, you want to claim the initiative so they can then tap down Kylo and then stop you from delivering the final blow next turn. You can just carry on after you've done that, because then if you use an action to try and do that, which doesn't work, and then you just swing and that's it. So those are pretty handy upgrades as well. And then we've also got Entrenched too, and Entrench is a very handy one, like we've seen in most decks that have it since set 1. This handy one to give to your units, to your opponent's units. Normally you want to give it to your opponent's units because since we don't play many units, as you've seen, we play, I think, maybe 4 units. We play very, very little units, which means that most of the time in the arenas, if your opponent's got a unit, you're not going to have a unit. So if you put Entrenched on, they do get a huge buff in extra free power and free health, but they can't attack, which means you're stopping them from attacking and their unit's basically useless. And just like with Frozen Carbonite, it's better on non-unique units, because then it can't just play a never copy that unit to then defeat the one that has Entrenched on. And this can also be used on your units to buff them up, to make them so you can help clear your opponent's board a little bit easier, or you can just make them more defensive, more bulky, so they survive a little bit longer. So very useful there. And then we have the last of the upgrades, and these are the non-blue or yellow upgrades that we got on the deck, but you can still use them because they either don't incur the aspect penalty or they're played in a different way. So Hotshot Blaster is an easy one there, because even though it's a red card, it's technically a yellow card, and that's because it can be smuggled out if you have the yellow aspect, cunning aspect, which we do. And so this is one that we can easily have as an easy resource, that after you've deployed Kylo and equipped everything and swung with it, next turn you can do it, but also add Hotshot Blaster to it by smuggling it out, attack it straight away, and do it for an even stronger swing, which is cool. So we got 2 of those in there, so we can resource them. So when we on the second swing we do with Kylo the turn after we deploy him, you can then swing with Hotshot Blaster equipped as well. Then we've also got 2 copies of Constructing Lightsaber. Now this is one of the only legendaries in the deck. No, one of the few legendaries in the deck. Not the only one. I just remember we got everyone in there. This is one of the few legendaries we have in the deck. It's a free cost upgrade. Now normally with free cost upgrades like this, you normally have 3 power, 3 health. But also maybe come with some good stats, but it's got a little bit less because it's a free cost that gives us 2 power and 3 health, but then that's already pretty good. 3 extra health means Kylo's a lot bulkier, and 2 power means he's getting a bit more power to swing a little bit harder. Now it can only attach to a force unit, but then it's got different abilities depending on what it's upgraded to. If it's upgraded to a heroic unit, restore 2. A villainy unit, raid 2. If it's not heroic or villainy, it just gains sentinel. But since Kylo is a villainy unit, it's going to gain raid 2, so it means it's instead of being technically a 2-free, it's technically a 4-free, because Kylo's going to be swinging and gaining that raid 2 means he's going to be hitting it a little bit harder than his actual power. So whatever his power is, he's got an extra 2 onto his power for every Constructed Light Spirit on him. Now when you play 2 of this, because you need 1 on there, 1 on Kylo to give it a bit of a power boost, and you want to put you want to get as many upgrades on him as possible to give him as many boosts. Remember, we want to have him really big and bulky, but still hit quite hard, so that way he's able to hopefully swing and defeat a base in 2 swings. And then one last addition I've put into the deck after a lot of testing was Grievous Willbike, and we got 1 copy of this. And the reason I put this in is because sometimes you go against blue decks and they have Entrenched. They do the same thing, they have Entrenched. So after you've deployed Kylo and you've put your upgrades on, and hopefully also put on Snapshot Reflexes and swung straight away, your opponent's going to just want to go, okay, I'll put Entrenched on him. Now you can't attack with Kylo at all, unless I got a unit on board. So now you got to attack with my units instead of my base, so I have to worry about that. And since Kylo doesn't have Overwhelm, you can't really do much about that. You can swing to units, but you're not really able to, and your main way of winning the game, which is swinging with Kylo, is now gone. But the thing is with Entrenched is that it boosts Kylo as well, so it gives extra 3 power and 3 health. So if you can find a way to give him Overwhelm, he still can do his job, and that's luckily what Grievous Willbike does. Now this is a hefty cost at 4 cost upgrade, but it gives an extra 3 free, so it's like a double costed Entrench essentially in terms of stats. So it's a 4 cost, but gives 3 free boost. And essentially the only thing that matters on this is that the attached unit gains Overwhelm. So this is a way where if you are going against a deck, a blue deck that's playing Entrenched and wants to put Entrenched on your leader, so after you've done your first swing, you can't then go ahead and do the finishing swing. You can put Grievous Willbike on there, or if you put it from your discard pile on Kylo, you can then swing through the units and then pierce damage through the unit still onto the base using Overwhelm as well. So this is a way to cancel out things like when people put things like Entrenched on your leader, stopping you from attacking their base, and you can do this to go through their units to then do that instead. That's an extra one I put into the main because you can put it in the side, but if you go against a blue deck that does this in game 1, you're then going to be out, and you don't want to have that. So you have putting this in. It's just extra upgrade. If you don't need it, If you don't need it, you can always just still discard it off Kylo, and then just have it there as just a way to thin your deck to find the upgrades you do want. So there's all the upgrades. So a lot of upgrades, because remember, they're going to be the way for you to thin your deck to get to get all the stuff you want, get yourself set up with Kylo as well. And now we're going to go and see what units we've got. Now for the ground units, we only have 2. So we only got 2 units, and those are Dr. Pershing and Bazine Natal. Now these hopefully are self-explanatory about why we got these, but if you're not aware, then they're basically just disruption and draw. So Dr. Pershing is your ideal turn 1 play because it's a 2 cost 0/5 that has an effect where you can use the action, tap him, deal 1 damage to a friendly unit, mainly himself, and you draw a card. This means you will normally want to get this out turn 1, maybe ditch an upgrade so you can fill your deck a bit more, get more cards to hopefully find your upgrades and set yourself up, and find ways to kind of deal with your opponent's units and hold off until you can go. So it was a deal open in turn 1, so we've got 3 copies of it. And Bazine Natal is another one we've got. This is also a card you can play as early as turn 1, but is usually one of our cards we want to resource, so we have an easy resource that we can play out later if we need to disrupt, because it's a very handy way to, especially in games 2 and 3, when your opponent may be siding in certain cards to help disrupt against Kylo and kind of stop him, like things like bamboos and stuff like that. You can play out Bazine to kind of see if they've got that, and then if they don't have it, just leave it. If they do have things like bamboozle and stuff, then knock them out their hands so they've no longer got it. So this is basically a way to hand disrupt, which is very, very handy. So we've got 3 copies of that. And that's actually all they are. It's just Pershing is just there to draw you cards, get you more cards so you can do more things. And Bazine is there to disrupt. And they're both cards you play early as turn 1 or later on in the game. And sometimes you can even play like ball wipe your opponent's, ball wipe the board, and then drop them Pershing after you reset it, to have them there to start drawing you more cards, get you things as well. Because if you've got multiple cards, more options, you then have more options to discard off upgrades and fill your deck quicker, so you can then go ahead and find the upgrades you're looking for to set yourself up. And Bazine is just very handy, and 3 copies seems fair enough because you can always resource them, and if you don't need them, you don't have to use them, but they're handy cards to resource. Next, we have the space units, and we've only got 2 space units as well, so just like we've only got 4 units overall in the main deck. 2 of them are ground and 2 of them are space, and we've got 3 copies from Inferno 4. So another turn 1 play you can drop out that helps you mess with the top cards of your deck, because when played or when defeated, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, place any number of cards from them on the bottom of your deck, and place the rest on the top of your deck in any order. So this helps you see what cards you're on the deck, if you want them or not. If you don't want them, bottom deck them. If you do want them, keep them on your deck so you can draw into them. It's a very handy way to kind of see what we've got, and also you can also see if there's a card you want to draw from Kylo as well. You can make sure one's definitely on the top, so you can then use Kylo, ditch and upgrade, draw a card to go quicker. So very handy there. And we got 3 copies because it's a very handy one to use. And even though we're going to a force mechanic set now, you still want to have space units to deal with the space stacks that still have not gone away and are still there for the next meta. And the same thing while we've got Elite P-38 Starfighter. We've got 2 copies of this, and this is to help deal with those space units like Vader and stuff, to help manage them a little bit easier, because they usually have a lot of 1 health units, like little units to help swarm the board. And Elite P-38 is a very handy one because it helps deal with those little 1 health units, but also be any unit in space you can attack with to help deal and manage their board. Because it's a 3 cost 3/2, which when played or even when defeated, helps you deal 1 damage to a unit. So you can take out those 1 health units and then crash himself into other units to either take him out, maybe even trade, and then take out more units to help manage the board as well. So we've got other ways to kind of deal with the units, but you've got this as a way to help deal with those units as well, or even just finish off weak units and even deal some little bit extra damage to things. So those are our space units. So we've got these 2 to help deal with space, and I feel that's all we need. You can suggest more options. These I feel are enough. Lastly, we have the events, and we have 8 events which we're going to go over, and I've separated between the villainy ones and the non-villainy ones, I'm pretty sure. So we've got the villainy ones here being Power of the Dark Side, I Am Your Father, No Glory Only Results, and Super Laser Blast. So these are all removal events, and on the villainy side, I think we've got 3 Power of the Dark Side, 3 I Am Your Father, 3 Super Laser Blast, but only 2 No Glory Only Results. Now, you got No Glory Only Results because it's basically, if you're playing the Villainy deck, it's just a better version of Vanquish, because Vanquish defeats any non-leader unit, whereas this does the same, but you take control of it. Now, the only downside of this is that if you take control of a unit that has a negative when defeated effect, you're going to get the brunt of that, but there's not many of those, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And then the rest of them are just removal that either going to, most of them are just removal, but then I'm Your Father can be removal, but also be draw power as well. So Power of the Dark Side is a nice one where it depends on how many units your opponent has on board. If they got less units, it's better. If they got loads of units, it's not great. And now it does conflict with frozen in carbonite, but if you got frozen in carbonite and you do use that, you then hold off using power dioxide, either resource to power dioxide, or you hold it until they get rid of the unit with frozen carbonite. Let's say they replace it with another unique unit, you can just kill that one, and you've lost 2 of those copies of that unit. But this is a handy one where if your opponent's got 1 unit on the board, use it, and basically you have to defeat that one. And it's a way you can also defeat leaders as well if their leader's out there alone on the board. Now, I'm Your Father is a nice one because it either deals 7 damage to an enemy unit, unless your opponent says no, and if they do say no, you get to draw 3 cards. So this is basically comes down to either this unit's going to take 7 damage, most of the time it's going to defeat that unit, or let me draw 3 more cards, then so I can find more of my upgrades, more removal, more things to control and hold off the game, so I can then deploy my leader and hit hard and huge with a big Kylo. Most of the time they're probably going to take 7 damage, but if they don't, then you draw more cards, and that's fine because you then draw more cards, you've got more ways to disrupt your opponent, and mostly every turn you're going to have to defeat their unit or hinder the unit in some way. And then we got No Glory, Only Results. Now this is, like I said, better Vanquish. It's going to take control, and that means if your opponent's got any when defeated, like say Ruthless Raider's got a when defeated deal 2 damage to a unit and 2 damage to your opponent's base, and things like Yoda has got a when defeated, choose a player and they draw a card. So you're taking your opponent's Yoda or Ruthless Raider, you get to then trigger the effects, and it's very handy. So we've got 2 copies of those in. We only got 2 because we want to kind of spread out the removal to cover all different things, and 5 is normally quite expensive, but when there's ones you want to take out like big things, this is very handy to do so for a little smaller cost than Super Laser Blast. And we've got Super Laser Blast. I was originally running 2, but sometimes you want to keep like board wiping more than just twice, or at least see it like quicker than just hopefully if you see 2 you've got less of a chance to find it, but with 3 you can hopefully find it, and even if you see 1 early you can resource and then you still have 2 copies. This is great. Like sometimes you don't always, as I was discussing with a friend of mine, you don't always deploy on 7 resources. Sometimes you wait a little bit longer so you can get more and more upgrades on it to basically do more. And the Super Laser Blast, sometimes when you get to a point where your opponent's waiting for you to deploy, you can just wipe the board and basically just clear it, and then after that, if they can play just 1 unit, so they can spam the board lots of them, you can then start taking them a little bit easier with power dioxide and doing them a little bit harder or easier them, or even then deploy after Super Laser Blast when the board's clear, so you can then deploy Kylo, hit hard next turn, and then they've still got to build up the board back again to try and hit Kylo with things, so they can take it out because they can't kill it because of shadow intentions. So this is a very handy one just to help with the surviving later in the game and then deploying a huge Kylo. Now the non-villainy removal we've got Takedown, Fellow Dragon, Rivals Fall, and even Evacuate. Now I think we're running 2 copies of all apart from Rivals Fall. I think we only run 1 copy of Rivals Fall because you need it once to take out a leader, where you got other removal to take out non-leaders, because a leader can only deploy once, so you got Rivals Fall taken out, but then other units you can still take out with some of the other ones. So all of these are 2 copies apart from Rivals Fall, and Takedown's handy for those, for removal of units that have 5 or less remaining HP, because sometimes you want there's units with low HP you can take with Takedown, but then sometimes there's units that have high HP but also high power you can take with Fellow Dragon, and there's very unique annoying ones that are just between where they're higher than 5 health but lower than 5 power, so you can't hit them, and that's why we've got things like No Glory, Any Results. But then Takedown can help you take down any of those units that have 5 or less power, 5 or less health. So even if you weaken them with, say, turn before with your Elite P38, you can weaken them and then take them out with Takedown. And then for any of the big units that you don't want your opponent to have, like really annoying ones like Crate Dragon and stuff like that, you've got Fellow Dragon and just pop them. Now you got 2 copies of each of them because they're just handy and they kind of hit different things. Rivals Fall, just like I said, is there to take out leaders. Just pop your opponent's leader if you can't entrench it, so that way it just sits back down after getting up. And then we've got Evacuate, which is a handy one for if your opponent goes wide on the board and they get too many things out. Even if you've if you've been entrenching or frozen carboniting your opponent's board, you kind of don't want to evacuate. But if you haven't been doing that, your opponent's spread out a huge board, you might want to evacuate so you can get a little bit easier. So it's a little bit cheaper than Super Laser Blast. It's only temporary removal. Bounce back to your opponent's hand, especially if your opponent spent their turn doing stuff like playing out things, and then you still got resources, you can then evacuate, then you clear their opponent's board, they can't play anything more this turn because they used up all their most of their resources. So you can then start next turn, maybe deploying Kylo, or then just picking off one by one again. So for the events, we essentially have just all removal. You want to just keep taking your opponent's cards out, and the only one that isn't guaranteed removal is I'm Your Father, which then either could be removal, or if your opponent wants to give you more cards, help you find things that are removal, like Super Laser Blast things to take them out, then they're just giving you more cards and more things to draw. You might think by making you draw things you can deck out, but then the thinner you get for your deck, the more likely you've got enough set up in your discards to deploy Kylo, swing, and then finish off that way. So those are all the events, and that's the deck. So essentially the aim of the game is to keep using Kylo overly every turn, to just ditch and upgrade into your discard pile to then draw for your deck. Basically both set up Kylo by getting upgrades in your discard, while also drawing for your deck to find your removal and cards you want to basically use to keep removing their units so they can't keep you in support, so they can't damage you too much. And when you get enough resources that you feel like you're ready to just go ahead and you're in a good position, then deploy and swing, you redeploy. Hopefully at least one of those upgrades you put on it is Snapshot Reflexes. You can then in one action deploy Kylo and swing with him, so you can take the initiative quicker than your opponent, and then be able to attack with Kylo next turn, either with an added Hotshot Blaster or just by swinging normally into your opponents. And then you've got different things to cover you, like you've got Shadow Intentions to make you so you can't be defeated against blue, Grievous Wallbite, so if you get entrenched you can still pierce through and win, Kylo's lightsaber, so you can not be tapped down by yellow, Jetpack to give you a shield against aspects that mostly deal damage by effects, like red mainly, and an Ascension Cable to make sure those Sentinels aren't an issue. So that is the main deck. Now we're going to go to side deck, because I do have a side deck that can help out for the next meta, and if you're interested, stay tuned. But also remember that sideboard is very dedicated to a person's playstyle or an individual. So if you feel like there's anything you want to change about it, feel free to do so, because this is more tailored to me. But if some cards aren't tailored to you, you can always change them up. So this is what I've got for the side deck, and this is just based on like how I play and kind of decks that I feel would be an issue for the deck. So we've got in the deck we've got 2 copies of Bounty Hunter Crew, so the only ever unit we've got in the deck. We've got a copy of Restock, an extra copy of Shadow Intentions, 2 copies of No Good to Be Dead, so against certain leaders that you can't really take out, like deploy a bit too early for Rivals 4, you want to just basically just like sit down for a little bit before you can deal with them. We've got 3 copies of Vigilance as well, to give that a bit of healing if you're going against aggro, and we've got Execute Order 66 as a card I want to try out. I haven't put 2 copies, just 1 copy in, because with the new set we've got a lot more Force leaders, and some of them are Jedi as well, and there'll be maybe a few more Jedi like leaders in the game to kind of have more of a ways to take down for the dark side as well. So this is my side deck I've got, so 10 cards in all, and we're going to go over the cards and kind of basically give a brief breakdown on what they're doing in there. So for the first one, we've got these as together because they're basically our pair. So Bounty Hunter Crew and Restock. This is our anti-mill kind of sideboard cards. So these are there to help you go ahead and prevent yourself from decking out by using Restock against those like hard control decks. Our hard control decks still do exist, and if they become a bit stronger, and they're kind of one thing it might be hard to deal with, where they just keep holding off and healing and defending themselves, it might be a little harder for you to deal with. So this is a way to help basically counter them. So you've got Bounty Hunter Crew, which is 6 cost 4/4 unit with Ambush. That when played, you can return an event from your discard pile to its hand. So mainly what you want to do is get back Restock, so you can then go ahead and use it to stop you from stacking out by putting itself plus 3 other cards from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. So because that's what it is, 1 cost event that allows you to choose 4 cards in the discard pile in your opponent's and yours as well, and put them on the bottom of the deck in the owner's deck in a random order. And this is also a way to kind of counter mirror match as well, like other card decks, by using Restock to put itself plus 3 of your opponent's upgrades back on the bottom of their deck, so they don't have them there. So like unique ones or ones that are going to be like annoying for them not to have, like putting all their Snapshot Reflexes back on the bottom of the deck could be handy, or ever ones that you don't want them to have on the leader when they do deploy. So these are a way to kind of stop yourself from milling out, because hard control decks have things like Vigilance, where they can mill the top 6 cards of your deck, and once you start decking out, you take taking damage, and you kind of don't want that. So having Restock is a way to stop yourself from decking out, and just by having Restock, you can keep using it over and over again because it can put itself back as one of those 4 cards. And if it ever gets milled, you ever lose that, you can always use Bounty Hunter Crew to get it back. And also Bounty Hunter Crew also functions as a way to, well, come down, ambush something as well, use up some kind of, get something back for the turn, and also get one of your events back. It could be Super Laser Blast, things like that, just to help you have a good event to help you manage the board depending on what the situation is. So these normally come in together to help out, and these are there more for anti-mill, but even Bounty Hunter Crew can be there to, if you don't, not even, like, restock normally goes in with Bounty Hunter Crew, but Bounty Hunter Crew can go in without restock if you need to kind of ambush your opponent's units, like get rid of some of their small ones, and also get back some events like Super Laser Blast, stuff like that, to help survive against certain decks. Now, Shadow Intentions is there, like, remember what I said when it comes to the main deck, Shadow Intentions is there because there's a way to put it, is an upgrade you can put on Kylo when it deploys, and makes it so then, if you're against blue decks mainly, your opponent can't just take out your leader by using like Rouse Full to defeat it. Now, your leader can't be defeated by any card abilities, so nothing your opponent could do as a card ability can defeat Kylo, unless they get rid of Shadow Intentions. And since you're going to be putting other upgrades that boost itself and make him very, very big, like very big power and very bulky as well, it's going to be hard to deal with through the few units they have. So they're normally going to want to use events to take it out. So they can't with this, and we put an extra copy of this in against blue decks, so that way while they're there holding off the wait to take out your leader when you deploy, you have more more chances to get into this and make sure you have this, so when you do deploy, they can't Rebels Full and take you out, and if they do, that's an action that you wasted, so you can then claim an attack and win the game there. No Good Speed Dead is there to take basically hold down those leaders that deploy early, or like against ramp decks or leaders that deploy early like Sabine and stuff like that, is they able a way to kind of lock them down and basically like sit down, hold off a little bit while just try and get away to deal with you, and then also basically just carry on, because it's a very cheap unit at 2 cost, and makes it so it's locked down for 2 turns, so not only the turn they deploy the leader, but the turn after is locked down as well. And this is a nice way to just hold off things that you can't deal with right there and then, or don't want to deal with yet, where you're just doing whatever things your opponent plays, and then just hold off. It's not often you bring this in. You can even, this is probably one I'm thinking more of switching out, because not as useful because we've got things like Frozen Carbonite and Treasure, stuff like that, but it's an extra way to kind of lock things down, so that way you can gather your thoughts until you deal with it. Next we have Vigilance, and this is more for against decks where they're being quite aggro but not too aggro, and you need to heal and kind of just deal with things. Remember, you don't really, most of the time what you're doing every turn is you can use an action to kind of get your opponent to do something by using kind of just discard a upgrade from your hand to draw a card, so that way you don't have to do anything, you're not using resources, and you use an action that isn't pass, so you can then expand the game state, but also basically the luck balls now in your court. And this is a handy one that can not only heal your base to keep you in the game, but also play the mill game if you want, and even remove or even shield up Kylo if you need be as well. So it's a very handy card, but we sided it, not main it, because it's very expensive at 6, so it's like Rivals Full kind of cost, because we're playing dual color rather than mono color. So we Sidedecked instead, just in case we need it. But then if you feel like you don't really need this against control decks, like you feel like Restock and Bounty Hunter Crew are enough, you can go ahead and skip this, leave it alone. Otherwise, change it out for something else in your side deck. But if you feel like this might be useful, or against mill decks you want to use this as a way to win because they might have too much heal, then you can go ahead and leave this in. But this is there to just more like heal off against aggro decks, and also defeat units as well, or then against other decks that are mill focused, milling them, plus also defeating things and healing and stuff like that. And then we've got the last card, we've got Execute Order 66. This is one I've got 1 copy of just to kind of see how the meta goes, and just I feel like this could be useful. This is something that I didn't really discover and think about until I was playing Double Red Vader, because it's a Villainy card, so it's a way to be played and then Vader trigger to basically deal an extra damage to a unit in a base. And with Vader means you can take out even 7 health Jedi, because it does a 6 damage just to take the unit out, so they don't get a clone trooper, and then use Vader to finish them off. So it's like a cheaper Rivals Full for that deck. And this is pretty nice because with more Force units, there's more Jedi, and like in Heroic side mainly as Jedi, because there's more Jedi units to come in, and a lot of the Heroic is the better user of the Force. Like the heroism has better force strategies and force cards than the Villainy side. And mostly all of them, I say mostly all of them because not all of them are, but mostly all of them are Jedi. So it's a way to kind of cheap way to kind of deal with all of them most of the time. This is a 4-cost event that deals 6 damage to each Jedi unit, and for each unit defeated this way, its controller creates a clone trooper token. Now, the nice thing about this is there's some leaders that have 7 health, like Obi-Wan from set 3, Anakin from set 3, Quinlan Voss and things like that. They are Jedi units that have 7 HP instead of 6. So if you do this, you'll do 6 damage to leave them one last health, which means it won't take them out, but leave them on 1 health remaining, unless they upgrade themselves, of course. And then that means that you've done a lot of damage to it. You need to do 1 more damage to it, but they don't get create clone trooper because it only creates a clone trooper if you defeat the unit this way. So you get to deal damage to it, not create a clone trooper, and then finish it off with something else. Then finish off the unit, or against the new ones like the new Obi-Wan leader that's coming out is probably one of the stronger leaders in the set, and be able to use this when they deploy their leader, be able to just go kill it. You get a clone trooper token, but trading out their leader, which is a 3/6, is going to swing and buff any unit that's have experience on, is better than a 2/2 token. So it's a very good one there. And even if your opponent has a wide board of heroic units, clearing out things like an Obi-Wan leader, well, if it gets like if they're playing the yellow version of Obi-Wan, taking out things like not Ahsoka because it's not Ahsoka, but like Gungi, even if it's buffed, Obi-Wan and Plo Koon hasn't got buffed yet. Taking all those and replacing those that are like a 3/6, a 3/6, and all 3/6s into 2/2s is a lot better of a trade-off. So this is a card that I feel could get better. Like, can either just be alright like it is at the moment, or actually be a good card choice against the Jedi decks. Depends how it goes, but I thought I'll put this in because if I can use this to take out Obi-Wan before it even gets started, it's pretty handy. So that is the deck, and hopefully that's helped you with the sideboard. Remember that with the sideboard, if you want to change it up, feel free to do so, because it's more built from my taste and playstyle. If you feel that any cards can be switched out, you want to put something else in, feel free to do so. It's just a guide for the moment. So that is Kylo Yellow. This is what I feel is the better version of Kylo, being the yellow version and the green version. I maybe even do a deck profile on the green version, because I still do like that. I feel the yellow version is more superior to any other version of Kylo. So that is it from me. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like as well. I think I already said that. Like, comment, subscribe. And also don't forget, you can also click that notification bell to get alerts to my videos when they do drop in there and then. So you can watch them later at a time if you want to. And also we're on our way to 2,000 subs. We're currently, I think, 60 away as of recording. I was at 1940 when recording this, so we're just 60 away. Hope it hasn't gone up, or hope it's gone down instead of up. And every little bit helps. If you have, thank you. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.